So, welcome to the third day of Secrets of Gita Revealed. Today's session is going to be on Jivatma. However, I thought we could just do a quick review of karma, since a lot of you had a lot of questions last night, and some of you may have had questions, but I had to drop off because of meetings that I had, office meetings that I had. So let us try to look at this in a very simple way, and I will use an example. So we said that there are 4 definitions of karma. Karma means actions. Karma also means reactions. And the system of actions and reactions is also called karma. And sukarma also sometimes is called karma. But in chapter 4, shloka 17, the Lord defines, he defines karma in 2 ways. One is called karma and the other one is vikarma. Karma means simply following the rules and regulations of scriptures. Vikarma means doing the exact opposite, which is not following the rules and regulations in scriptures. So, for example, let us say you want some benefit. Whatever it is that you want to get a good son, a good wife, good husband, nice marriage, wealth, prosperity, whatever it is. Let's say you have a desire. So if you have a desire like this, there is a section in the Vedic scriptures called the Karma Kanda section, which means if you want something, then you have to perform certain ceremonies to get that something. So you have to perform a certain type of sacrifice or observe a certain type of austerity to get a particular type of result. So let us say you want to do a particular kind of sacrifice, fire sacrifice. But it has to be done properly for you to get that benefit that you want. If the person who's chanting the mantra chants the mantra incorrectly or puts the emphasis on the wrong syllable, the meaning of the mantra itself will change. So, which means when you are following the Vedic scriptures to get what you want, the precision with which it has to be done, there's no compromise on it. The Lord will not say, well, you meant to say that, but you said something else. No, the Brahmana who's performing that yajna on your behalf has to pronounce it properly. So that is the risk that we're taking, even if we are planning to follow the scriptures in order to get some material benefit, okay, so that you can get the pious results out of it. So our scriptures say that every human being, in chapter 17, the Lord says that every human being must perform 3 kinds of austerities. All of us have to perform yajna. All of us have to perform dana. And all of us have to do tapa. All of us, no exceptions. Doesn't matter whether you're a devotee of Lord, not devotee of Lord, whether you're Brahmana, Kshatriya, Sannyasi, it doesn't matter. If you're born in a human body, all of us have to do yajna, dana, tapa, which means sacrifice, charity, and some penance we have to learn to keep. All three have to be done according to scriptures. The difference is, are you doing the three to get material benefit, or are you doing the three just because it's your duty to do it? And Krishna says, if you're doing the three just because it's your duty to do it, then you need not worry about consequences. But if you're doing it to get benefits, then the way you do it has to be exactly as per scriptures. Right? So now let us say you want to get something and you decide your own process, your own penance, your own austerity, your own sacrifice, your own definition of everything, then as per Krishna, that is vikarma. You are operating under the mode of tamogun. When you concoct your own rules and regulations and decide, sometimes there may be family traditions that come about that are not really based on Vedic scriptures. So sometimes people may just decide, oh, I will light so many lamps, break so many coconuts, do this, do that. None of this may be in the scriptures. They may just decide it's a vrat that I will keep that has nothing to do with the scriptures. Krishna says there's zero benefit to doing this kind of sacrifices, austerities, and penances. So it's a very interesting chapter, chapter 17, where Krishna talks about how when you are under the influence of different gunas, what kind of charity you do, what kind of sacrifices that you do, what kind of penances that you keep, etc. So at the end of the 17th chapter, the Lord tells Arjuna, anything that is not done as per scriptures has no benefit. Zero benefit. So which means those of us who undertake penances, sacrifices, austerities, charity outside of the scriptures, it's just a waste of energy because there is no benefit to it. Krishna says that categorically in the very last shloka of the 17th chapter. So if you decide to concoct your own rules and regulations and do whatever you want, then you are doing vikarma. If you want to do karma, then you have to follow the scriptures. But if you're following the scriptures, there is the rules and regulations are very stringent. It has to be followed. Because if it's not done properly, there is a particular pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam where there is a personality who wants to take revenge against Indra. And he wants to actually beget a son who will be capable of killing Indra. But what happens is when he chants the mantra, he changes, rather he emphasizes the wrong word or the wrong syllable, and he ends up having a son who gets killed by Indra. So just a slight variation in pronunciation of a mantra can cause a very different result. So that is the risk of following the Vedic scriptures when you don't have Brahmanas who can recite the mantras precisely as it is meant to be recited. So sometimes I have observed, in certain ceremonies, marriage ceremonies or other ceremonies, the Purohits just recite the mantras super fast. And I always wonder, is there going to be any benefit out of it? It's like all speed recitation. So that anyway, there are a lot of conditions which has to be met. Even if you want to get good karma, you have to follow the scriptures. So, and then Krishna talks about akarma. So what is the meaning of akarma? Krishna, the way it is translated in English is that it is in action. But inaction does not mean being idle. Inaction does not mean being idle. It does not mean no activity. So when Krishna is using the word inaction, what does he mean? He means that two things. Either you're performing your duties and responsibilities and are not attached to the outcome, that is a karma. Typically, this is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. Or a karma also means doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna, which is what we mentioned yesterday, just working for and on behalf of Krishna. So either you can perform Nishkama Karma Yoga and do a karma, or you can perform Bhakti Yoga and do a karma. So now we will take an example. What is the difference between Punya and Sukriti? We'll take an example of charity and see how that works. So let us say, I want to feed the poor because I am moved by their suffering. And I decide that I will purchase some things, cook the food items, and then go and distribute it to the poor. Or I may hire a cook who is an expert in cooking in bulk or in large quantities. And then I go distribute it. Maybe I'll go to an orphanage and distribute this food that has been cooked. So the question is that Punya or Sukriti? Maybe there is some Punya there, but I'll come back to that in just a second. So how do I perform that same charity and do a karma so that there is not a collection of pious credits or a collection of sinful activities? So if I consider myself to be a devotee of Krishna, what will I do? I will cook the food. I will offer it to the Lord first, and then I will distribute it as prasadam. Activity is the same. Cooking, distributing, serving the poor. Intent is different. In the first case, where I've just cooked and distributed the food, food is not sanctified. So Krishna says in chapter 3 that anybody who eats any food without offering it to him first is only eating sin. Now, because I don't know this rule, and I cook food simply because I feel compassionate and I want to help and serve the poor, I cook the food, I take it and distribute it. What am I distributing? I'm actually distributing sin. Therefore, a devotee in the Shastra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and other acharyas say, a devotee is always paradukha dukhi. Paradukha dukhi means we cannot tolerate to see other Jivatmas suffer. We cannot tolerate to see other human beings suffer. And already all of us are suffering. All of us are suffering, no exceptions. The time The intensity and the type of suffering may be different for each one of us. But every one of us is undergoing suffering. There is no exception. Even Ambanis are suffering. So when I distribute prasadam, I am actually distributing the Lord's mercy to everybody. Not only does it benefit me from Sukriti, the other person honoring the prasadam also gets Sukriti, which means they also get spiritual credits. Whereas, if I just distribute any food that has been cooked and not been offered to the Lord, because in the process of cooking, all of us are committing sins every day. How? The process of growing the food, when you're uprooting the vegetables, you're killing insects and other small jivatmas that live in the soil. So farming is not a sin-free activity. Transportation of those items, it's not a sin-free activity. You're killing bugs all along the way. So there is sinful activity involved in every single step of the production of food and the production of anything and everything. Now, you may say, how is that fair? How can I avoid killing insects? Because I have to survive, I have to eat. That's why Krishna has given you a very simple solution. Whatever you eat, whatever you use, offer it to Krishna first to remove the sinful contamination. So because in that chain of events, there is so much sin committed, in the sense that we have committed so much violence. We have killed so many jivatmas just to put food in our mouth. Therefore, if you want to do charity, whatever charity that you do it after offering it to Krishna. Then that is Sukriti. Whereas, if I had just cooked and distributed that food through my hands, I am actually creating karma for them. I am forcing those individuals who are already suffering to accept food that has not been offered to Krishna and increase their suffering even more. So you see, this is how subtle the law of karma is. The motivation may be compassion, but compassion as per scriptures. So every good deed that we're trying to do, I may think it's a good deed. But if the scriptures say I'm going about doing that good deed in the wrong way, then what's the point of doing that deed? If I'm actually doing the exact reverse. I think I'm doing good, but I end up getting karmic reactions for it. So just because you didn't know what the scriptures say does not free you from karmic reactions. You've understood the difference between punya and sukriti. Maybe there was a little bit of punya there, but actually that person is actually distributing sin. So better, if you want to do annadan or any other seva, offer it to the Lord first. Because the Lord himself is saying, if you don't, you are eating only sin. So this is the difference between karma, akarma, and vikarma. Vikarma means violating the scriptures. Karma means following the scriptures. And Sukriti means doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. You want to cook, you cook for Krishna. You want to shop? Shop for yourself, but whatever you want to use, please offer it to Krishna first before you use it. You want to buy a new phone? Offer it to Krishna first. And tell Krishna, please help me use this in your service in some way. Now, does it mean my mobile phone is only used for Krishna's service exclusively? Perhaps not. I am going to use it even to take care of my personal activities. But am I also using this mobile group to send you all messages of, hey, Bhagavad Gita class is happening here today? That is Sukriti. So it is our intent, motivation behind everything that we do. So Krishna says, keep me in the forefront of everything that you do. Everything. Why do we do Graha Pravesh? In the process of doing Graha Pravesh, do we know who we are actually inviting? So when we do Graha Pravesh, literally the mantras say we are inviting Narayana to come and be the master of the house. So Graha Pravesh says that the house belongs to the Lord and you are staying there as a servant, caretaker. This is why we have so many different ceremonies, purification ceremonies. The intent is to offer everything to the Lord, but it has to be done in the right way. So this is the significance of karmic reactions. But Krishna's expectation is that you focus on your duty and responsibility and not on your karma. Karma meaning your past reactions, because you cannot go back into the past and change things. But you can change the way you handle the present, and you can change the trajectory of your future. That is definitely something that can be done. Right? So with that quick summary of karma, because we are recording now, whatever questions you have, just post it in the chat. We will come and handle it at the end of the class. Yeah. So now we will go to today's topic. Today's topic is Jivatma. Jivatma means living entity. In this context, we are going to talk about the human being. We've already talked about this in the first class as to who am I. We all agreed that we are spirit soul. So today we're going to discover a little bit more about who is the spirit soul and what is the features of the spirit soul. Before we begin, let's offer our most humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, the question is, what is the soul? What's the difference between the body and the soul? The nature of the soul? The fact that reincarnation exists? And the dilemma that Arjuna is actually facing. So yesterday, we talked about that when we go through difficult times, it's an opportunity for us to get attached to Krishna. It's an opportunity that the Lord is giving you to remember Krishna, to remember Him all the time. So we also talked about that we need to have faith, we need to have strength, we need to have determination that this difficult time will also pass. And Krishna's expectation is that we fundamentally focus on our duties and responsibilities. And we talked about why doing your duty and responsibility is important. In chapter 3, Krishna talks about each one of us has to do our duty and responsibility to maintain individual order. We have to do it to maintain social order. We have to do it to maintain cosmic order. So what I do impacts you. what you do impacts me, which means as a society, what each one of us does impacts us. It's not that I can do whatever I want and there are no repercussions on others. There is always some impact and repercussions on others because of what we do. So we have to be conscious of our thoughts, words, and actions. That is karma. Thoughts, words, and actions. Yeah. And Krishna also said, we have to do our duty and responsibility to set a good example for others. This is working for the government first and on behalf of the government. We have to do both. So we should not be disturbed when we go through difficult times, no matter how trying the circumstances may be. So I was mentioning, I don't remember whether I mentioned in yesterday's class or the class before that in chapter 16, Krishna talks about divine qualities and demoniac qualities. And Krishna says, anybody who is cultivating these 6 qualities are demoniac in nature, which is pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These 6 traits we must give up at all costs. In that same chapter, Krishna talks about the 3 gates to hell. Those 3 gates are lust, anger, greed. Krishna says an intelligent man should give up lust, anger, and greed. Otherwise, he is going to be taken straight to hell. So what are some of the, and as I mentioned, there are many, many qualities that Krishna talks about in detail. He enumerates the divine qualities. The first thing is fearlessness. Other things, I'm just going to list a few that Krishna talks about in chapter 16. Self-control, charity, sacrifice, accepting a spiritual master, worshipping the Lord, studying the scriptures, simplicity, avoiding the tendency to criticize others, tranquility. So these are all things that Krishna talks about as good habits to inculcate. Right? We have to avoid finding fault with others. It's one of the instructions of Lord Krishna. That somebody who's divine has an aversion to critiquing others, to finding fault in others. So, so what is the benefits of having an awareness that you are actually the soul and you're not this physical body? If you have fully understood this concept and accepted it, then you know that your suffering is temporary. It is only your body that is undergoing it. Your soul is untouched by the external sufferings of both the body and the mind. And if you keep acquiring these divine assets, these divine qualities that Krishna talks about, then automatically you're going to be free from pride, anger, conceit, harshness, arrogance, ignorance. And when you're freed up from your demoniac tendencies, then automatically your fear disappears, your illusion is destroyed, and therefore your tendency to always think, oh no, something bad is happening only to me, that complaining nature will stop. So freedom from lamentation, fear, and illusion is a byproduct of acquiring good qualities, cultivating good qualities. And when you cultivate all these good qualities and you become free from envy, pride, then you'll begin to see every other Jivatma as your brother or sister who is suffering just as you are. In order to experience universal brotherhood, Srila Prabhupada says, first of all, each of us have to acknowledge we have one Father who is common to all of us, and that's Lord Krishna, because we all originate from Krishna. And when you develop this true love for one another on this planet Earth, without discrimination, then naturally you're going to have a very positive outlook and attitude. And then if you supplement it with becoming a devotee of Krishna through the art and science of mantra meditation, then what will you do? You will use all of God's property, which includes your own body. Your body is a gift from the Lord. This human body is a gift from the Lord. You will use all of the resources judiciously. Yeah. Prabhupada used to get very angry with his Western disciples when they were careless. If they left the room, the light has to be turned off. If they close the faucet, they have to close the faucet in such a way that water is not being wasted. Water is not dripping. Prabhupada would scold his disciples. He would say, you are wasting Krishna's energy. This is Krishna's energy. It doesn't belong to you. So you become careful as a caretaker because everything is a gift to you from the Lord. Don't take the food that you're getting for granted. Don't take the roof over your head for granted. We have to be so grateful for every little thing that Krishna is sending our way and taking care of us so nicely. So these are the benefits of understanding truly what is the difference between the body and the soul. So the next set of slides has photos of some 9 famous personalities. So you will see 9 of them here, and their childhood pictures are on the next set of slides. I'm sure most of us know who these personalities are. So my question is, what has changed? You can put your response in the chat. What has changed in these pictures? So you have Mother Teresa, A.R. Rahman, you have Albert Einstein, Nelson Mandela, Roger Federer, the tennis player, Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, Barack Obama, the president of the United States, Oprah Winfrey, a very famous talk show host, and Queen Elizabeth. So in the next slide, you see their childhood pictures. So if I go to the next slide, the first row are pictures, childhood to youth pictures of Albert Einstein. In the row beneath Albert Einstein, there are childhood to girlhood to young woman pictures of Queen Elizabeth. Similarly, below that is of Roger Federer. And here you see Nelson Mandela. Below that is Mother Teresa. Below that is Barack Obama. And on this one, it's Oprah Winfrey on the first row, A.R. Rahman in the second row. The bottom row is Steve Jobs. So my question is, what has stayed the same? and what has changed? So raise your hands. I will call your name and you can unmute yourself. What has changed and what has stayed the same? Yes, Rajiv ji.
Only internal instinct remains the same, but the
Internal
body and looks changed.
body and looks changed. What internally, what has not changed?
Internally, your क्या बोले? I don't have exact word in English. You can say uh, in Hindi I can speak. It is आपकी जो आत्मा है वो सेम है.
Okay, so the soul is
Soul is
constant.
same.
Okay. Okay, Manjula Mataji.
So,
You unmute yourself, please.
sorry, Mother. Hare Krishna. So the looks have changed, like they've from the childhood they have gone to their adolescent age and then they have grown up. Only the looks has changed, whereas the soul remains the same.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So it's, yes, the looks definitely has changed. The body has changed. Intelligence has changed. Mind has changed. Likes and dislikes have changed. Sometimes personalities change. Value systems changes. So many things change as you grow up. One thing remains constant, that never changes, that is there inside the body. And that is the fact, the I factor, the soul. So we all agreed that they are the same personality, but who have undergone a lot of changes, beginning with the body. So yes, the soul is constant while the body undergoes changes. The body undergoes 6 type of changes. The soul never undergoes these 6 type of changes. So let's look at this. This is called the wheels of life. So a mother is going into the hospital and she's being wheeled on whatever that is called, the gurney. So you are born on wheels, you grow a little bit older, you go into a pram, then maybe a tricycle with somebody helping you. Then you feel, woof, I'm free. I can ride the tricycle on my own. On my own, I don't need any help. Then you move to a bicycle, then maybe you experiment with skateboards, then a motorbike, maybe a car, maybe a fancy car. Then as you get old, you have a walker with wheels, then a wheelchair, and then into the mortuary. So what has happened? So all the planning that we do in life is with the full knowledge that one day our body is going to go to that crematorium. So Krishna is saying, Brahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Krishna is telling Arjuna, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. First thing Krishna is saying is, doesn't matter. You can be 33 crore Devata. You can be Brahma himself. You can be down there in Patal Loka. Krishna is saying, first of all, this entire material cosmos, he's saying all are places of misery. In every single universe, birth and death is taking place. And then Krishna is offering you an option. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Which means Krishna is saying, if you come to my home, it means you're done with your cycle of birth and death. So that means he's talking about two different worlds here. One is the material world, the other the spiritual world. So he's tempting us and saying, are you sure you want to stay here? You sure you don't want to come back home, back to me, and avoid all of this cycle, endless cycle? Parents would have experienced this with very young children. You know, when you take very young children to the park and let them play, it's very hard to get them back inside the house. If you call their name, they'll say, no, another 5 minutes. And you call them again, they'll say, no, another 10 minutes, I want to play. No, my friend is there, I want to play. Or my friend has just come, I want to play. So Krishna also keeps calling us. Sometimes directly, sometimes through the presence of acharyas. Come back home. And we are always telling Krishna, no, Krishna, I'm too busy constructing this house, paying the EMI, I have to educate my children, then I have to hand over my business to them, and then I have to take care of grandchildren. I have no time for you, Krishna. So we are like that little child with Krishna. We don't want to go back home. But Krishna keeps calling. But we want to play a little bit more. And Krishna is saying, why do you want to play outside? There is plenty for you to do in my house. You can enjoy yourself with me. Why do you think you can actually enjoy yourself in the material cosmos? Don't you know you're suffering? So it's time to come back home. So this is the wheel of life: birth, death, old age, and disease. Krishna is saying the choice is yours. I'm telling you, there is a place where you don't have to undergo birth, death, old age, and disease. That's where you used to be, but you decided to go out and play and you don't want to return. So Krishna is wondering what's wrong with us. So in chapter 2, Krishna talks in detail about the soul, the various qualities, characteristics of the soul. So just one such shloka here is, Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha. The translation of this particular shloka is, Krishna is telling you, the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Krishna is saying nobody can touch the soul. Nothing can happen to the soul. The soul always existed and will continue to exist in the future, Krishna says. He says that in chapter 4 to Arjuna. He tells Arjuna, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings on the battlefield. So we keep changing bodies according to our desires. But let's look a little bit more about the process of transmigration of the soul. But in this particular shloka, Krishna is saying, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhiras tatrana muhyati. Krishna is telling Arjuna, as the embodied soul, embodied means the soul is occupying a particular machine, a particular body. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. And then Krishna is saying, a sober person is not bewildered by such a change, which means just like your body is undergoing so many changes, the soul is also going to change its body itself once it leaves the body. When the soul decides that this body is of no use anymore, at that time the soul will exit the body to take on a new body. So sometimes the soul may exit the body within the womb itself. Sometimes the soul may exit the body at a very young age. Sometimes the soul exits the body through accidents, and in unfortunate situations through murders, and even more unfortunate situations through suicide, which is considered an unnatural death. But Krishna is saying, don't be too disturbed that your soul is going to keep changing bodies. So when we say this body, what do we mean by that? So this body has two aspects to it. One is we have this physical body that you can see, through which you experience pain and joy. So this is called the sthula sharira, or the gross body. So when you die, you give up this gross body. So what is the subtle body then? This subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, and ego. Which means after you die and you have to take a new body, your subtle body is traveling with the soul until it takes on a new physical body. That means your mind, intelligence, and your false ego is traveling with you to the next body. It could be the body of an animal. It could be the body of a plant. It could be the body of an aquatic. It could be a body of another human being. So the subtle body is called the sukshma sharira. And within this gross and subtle body resides the soul. The soul is eternally Satchidananda. We are Satchidananda because Krishna is Satchidananda. So just like Krishna is Sat, Chit, and Ananda, we are also Sat, Chit, and Ananda in our original position. So if you want to achieve moksha, so Krishna has given you a hint that if you go back to his house, if you go back to your father's house, everything is there for you, or everything is being supplied. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about getting a degree. You don't have to worry about fighting for a job. You don't have to worry about wars. You don't have to worry about supply chain issues. You don't have to worry about inflation. You don't have to worry about terrible relationships. Because everything in the spiritual world is perfect. So to enter the spiritual world, you have to give up both the bodies. You have to give up the gross body. You have to give up the subtle body, which means only the pure soul is left. And when the soul enters the spiritual universe, you attain your original spiritual body, which means you leave your mind, false ego, and intelligence behind when you stop the cycle of birth and death, because your soul is going back to its original position. So we said that Brahma lives for 300 trillion earth years. But Brahma also has to die. After he lives his 100 years, he has to die. And then creation starts again. And then Brahma is again come into being. But if you read the Bhagavatam, you'll realize there are millions and trillions of Brahmas, because each universe must have a Brahma. The word Brahma means creator. So Brahma is actually a post. It's the title of that post. So if you say finance minister, That's the title of the post. So Brahma is not the name of the person. So for example, the Indra who's ruling over this particular Manvantara, his name is Purandhara, but he's occupying the title of the post of Indra. So these 33 crore devatas, they are all posts. You can apply for them if it is vacant, that is. If there is some vacancy somewhere in some universe for this post, you can apply for them. But you need to get a right qualification followed by nomination. These two things are important. So qualification plus nomination to that role, because generally these posts are held by devotees of the Lord. Because the Lord gives these kind of heavy responsibilities to his devotees. So they are performing this service on behalf of the Lord. It is said that our current Brahma is a devotee of the Lord. And at the time of the end of his life, he will go back to the spiritual world. Unless the Lord wants him to occupy this position, right? So think about it. In a government, if the government has to create a jail, it also has to send good citizens to go into the jail to run the jail. The jail is not run by bad citizens, right? Law-abiding citizens have to take the difficult job of actually running a jail cell. Similarly, there are some law-abiding citizens of the Lord that take on various roles in this material universe that is considered to be like a jail for us. It's a jail cell for us. So the minute we understand how all of this operates, we'll make a plan and get out of here. So how do we make a plan and get out of here? Well, we'll come to that in a second. So some facts about the soul from chapter 2. Krishna says the soul is always going to maintain its individuality, which means when you enter the spiritual world, you are not going to merge with the Lord. You will still be an individual separate from the Supreme Lord. And you'll have a relationship with the Lord in the spiritual world. The soul is never born. It has always existed. It will continue to exist, which means there is no date of birth for the soul. And there will never be a date of death for the soul also. It's evergreen, everlasting, eternal. Soul cannot be destroyed. Can't measure the soul. Although a few shastras talk about how large the soul is. It cannot be cut, burnt, dried, or become wet. The soul is invisible and inconceivable. You cannot understand how the soul operates. The influence of the soul is that it pervades the entire body. Pervades means when the soul resides inside your body, even if you pinch, even if, let's say, the soul is in the vicinity of the heart, it is so tiny, but because of its presence, you can experience pain on any part of the body. The soul is eternally searching for God. The soul feels lost if it is not connected to God. And the soul is situated in the heart of every Jivatma. But the soul does not undergo the 6 changes that the body does, which is the body has a date of birth. It will grow for some time. It will maintain itself for some time. It will produce byproducts for some time. It will dwindle and then it will die. These 6 changes that the body undergoes, the soul doesn't undergo any of those changes. And there is also a measurement of the soul given in a couple of the shastras. So if you were to pluck a piece of hair from your head, take the tip of the hair, cut that tip into 100 pieces, then take one of those 100 pieces and cut that one piece into 100 pieces. And one of those 100 pieces is the size of the soul. Hence, It's 1/10,000th the size of the tip of the hair. So can you imagine how small the soul is? But because of the soul's presence, your body is able to experience changes. Just like the sun pervades the entire universe, the sun is static in one place. But the sunlight is experienced all over the universe. Similarly, when the soul enters a body, it is able to maintain the body. So the Shastras say the symptom of the soul is that consciousness. So what's the difference between a person that is alive and a body, a dead body? A dead body does not experience pain. It does not undergo any more changes. It stops growing. The minute the soul leaves the body becomes useless, essentially. So up until the soul is residing in that body, we call that person by name, he, she, so and so. But the minute the soul leaves the body, we call the body body. We stop using the name of that person. Because somehow we have understood that something has exited the body and the body is no longer of any use to you. And because even though you loved that person so much when they were alive, the minute the soul left the body, you don't want the body anymore. Nobody's love is so strong that they want to keep the body in their house, because everybody knows the body is going to very quickly decompose. So none of us have any problem taking that body to the crematorium and giving it back to earth. No matter how much we may have loved that person. So who did you really love? Not the body. You were enjoying that soul that happened to be occupying that particular body. So the symptom of the soul is consciousness. As long as the soul is there in the body experiences consciousness. The other symptom of the soul is that it experiences spiritual growth. In its original position, the soul is pure Satchidananda. But when it takes on body after body after body, the soul tends to forget what its real identity is, because the soul becomes covered by the consciousness, actually gets contaminated. So in this particular shloka, Krishna is talking about transmigration. Jatasya hidruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmad apariharyerte natvam shochitum arhasi. So Krishna is saying, one who has taken his birth is sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So Krishna is saying, you're a Kshatriya, you're on the battlefield. On the battlefield, death is unavoidable. It's only a question of who's going to die. Perhaps the better soldier survives. So Krishna is saying, why should you be so confused? You are on the battlefield. Death is going to happen. So in our Shastra, it says, violence is necessary in order to maintain dharma, but that violence should only be undertaken by the Kshatriyas. Brahmana is not allowed to kill. Vaishya not allowed to kill. Kshatriya is allowed to kill. So hence Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, don't worry. You are not going to commit any sin here because you're doing your duty. So if you're doing your duty, there is no sin to worry about, because doing your duty, Krishna says, itself is a purificatory process. Your consciousness gets purified simply by doing your duty. So duty over karma, duty over reactions. Krishna says, don't worry about the reactions. Anyway, it's not in your hands. So we mentioned yesterday, you can take 84 different types of body. This is how huge Krishna's wardrobe is for you. Women like to shop. Hopefully none of us want to shop for these kind of clothes. What kind of clothes? There are 9 lakh different kind of clothes you can wear in water. There is 20 lakh different types of clothes in the form of trees and plants. There is 11 lakh different types of clothes. If you want, you can become a cockroach if you want, or a reptile. You enjoy being a bird? Well, there are 10 lakh different wardrobe outfits there. 30 lakh different types of 4-legged animals. And only 4 lakh human types, different types of bodies. So even on this planet Earth, we have different types of human bodies. So for example, if you go deep into the forests, you will come across tribes who are not exposed to modern world. Right? We have tribes living in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So that's one kind of body. So like this, there are 4 lakh different types of human bodies. So these are varieties. Anyone you can take, Krishna says. But we don't want to take this different types of bodies. At a minimum, we want to make sure we have a human body. Why would we want to have an animal body? Of course, animals have no karma. So at a minimum, we want to guarantee that if we take birth again, we want to have a human body, because it's only in a human body that you can get moksha. There are some rare exceptions when the Lord gives benedictions to great devotees who, for whatever reason, may have taken on the body of an animal. For example, Gajendra, the Gajendra Moksha. Gajendra was a very famous, very great devotee of the Lord. But somehow, through some curse, he took on the body of an elephant and he was trapped. But the Lord gave him the remembrance to recite the shloka that he had memorized in a previous life. And the Lord immediately came and released him. So, rarely in animal bodies also, you can be liberated by the Lord. We talked about the 2 trees. They were liberated from their position as trees, but they went back to take their original position in the heavenly planets. Right? So they didn't get moksha, but they were relieved from being trees for many thousands of years. So Arjuna's crisis is one of identity. So what is his dilemma? Kula dharma or Kshatriya dharma? Family or society? Which is more important? Krishna says you are a Kshatriya. Society is more important. Especially if the family members are adharmic, then you have to vote for Kshatriya dharma than Kula dharma. So Krishna is saying the Kauravas are sinful and therefore death is a necessity to bring an end to the sinful activities that they are engaging in. So the benefit of death, and including capital punishment, is that it puts an end to sin. That soul gets a new opportunity with a new body to start fresh. And if that soul is fortunate to encounter a devotee in the next life, their entire life can get transformed. Arjuna asks Krishna, why is it okay for me to kill my own family? And he was arguing and he gave various reasons. He said, no. They may be unscrupulous people. They may want the kingdom, but I don't want to kill them. That's my Dronacharya, that's Bhishma. I don't want to kill them. And after killing them, how can I enjoy the kingdom? Because the purpose of victory is to enjoy it with your family. If I have to kill my family, what's there to enjoy? And then after all this killing, I am not ready to take the sins of so many killings. And then what about all the families? They'll be destroyed because the men folk are not there anymore. The women will be raped. They will have children out of wedlock, Arjuna says. Everything will get destroyed, Krishna. Finally, in chapter 2, Arjuna says, actually, I don't know why I'm feeling so weak. I don't know why I've forgotten myself. I don't know which is better. Is it better that I be killed by them, or is it better that they be killed by me? So this was Arjuna's internal conflict being reflected in the reasons that he was giving to Krishna as to why he should not fight. And what is the first thing Krishna does when Arjuna says, I am a soul surrendered unto you, I am your disciple now, please instruct me. And the first thing Guru does is chastise his student. He says, what nonsense are you speaking? Yeah, you think you have become a Brahmana suddenly? You think you're talking like a Brahmana, actually you're a fool, you don't know what you're talking about. So the first thing the Lord does is scold Arjuna, chastise Arjuna. Don't talk all nonsense. And then in chapter 2, step by step, the Lord takes Arjuna through various ways to look at the same situation and arrive at the same conclusion, which is he has to fight. He doesn't have a choice. So let's look at those 4 lenses that Arjuna is giving. Magnifying glasses to see, okay, if I look at the situation with this glass, what's the result? What's the decision that he has to make? So Krishna is saying, now that I have told you, the soul is never destroyed. The soul is going to take another body. This is knowledge. This is jnana. This is the first step in understanding that transcendently, the body is different from the soul. And because there is no death for the soul, there's nothing for you to worry about. So from shlokas 11 to 30, Krishna is talking about the soul, the soul, the soul, the soul, the soul. It's not going to die. It's not going to get destroyed. It's going to get a new body. These kings will take a new body. If you've understood this, stop complaining and fight. Okay, so let us say you're not too convinced by this spiritual soul and body. You are a Kshatriya, you are meant to enjoy the kingdom. So do karma kanda. You fight, you do your duties, enjoy the outcome. So from shlokas 31 to 38, Krishna talks about all of us have to work. You have to work for a living. In this case, you have to fight your own family to put food on the table and have a roof over your head, because that's your dharma as per a Kshatriya. So fight. If you win, you win. If you lose, you win. So then Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga means not only using your intelligence, but also performing Nishkama Karma Yoga, which is, so Arjuna is saying, how can I enjoy? I mean, you give me the 3 worlds, you make me the king of the 3 worlds, Arjuna says, even then I will not enjoy. That's, he was complaining to Krishna like this. Krishna is saying, okay, fine, you don't want to enjoy, that's fine. But still, that means you can't just run away from your duties, Arjuna. You fight, but give up the reactions. Whatever results you get, don't worry about it. You do your duty, you use this knowledge and be detached from the results. Still, this is Nishkama Karma Yoga. Then Krishna says, Sthita Prajna, fight because I am asking you to fight. Fight because I am telling you that's the right thing to do. You are not the decision maker, I am the decision maker. Fight to please me. So from shlokas 54 to 72, Krishna talks about the benefit of working for him. If you work for Krishna, no sin. So Krishna has essentially talked about how when your consciousness is elevated and you acquire the spiritual vision, you have a twofold benefit. It gives you material victory, it also gives you spiritual victory. So when you work for Krishna, he will make sure that your material needs are met as much as your spiritual needs are also met. So this kind of spiritual vision, Krishna says in chapter 2, will not only give you the material outcome, it will also give you spiritual victory. The material outcome is, if you fight and you win, you get to enjoy the kingdom. If you fight and you die, you take on a new body, you go to the heavenly planets and live a very long life, enjoy yourself there. So either you'll enjoy yourself on this earth or you'll enjoy yourself in the heavens. What's the problem? Both is a win-win situation for you, Arjuna. And then Krishna tells Arjuna, actually, if you are my devotee, you will not do this profit-loss calculation. You will not tell me, oh, Krishna, if I do that, I will suffer like this. Only if I do this, I can enjoy. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, a true devotee of mine will not think, if I do this, will I get that outcome? If I don't do this, can I avoid that outcome? A devotee of Krishna does not do any profit-loss calculation. A devotee of Krishna is only interested in doing his duty for the pleasure of Krishna, and he leaves it up to Krishna whether Krishna wants to reward him or punish him. It doesn't matter to the devotee. So spiritual vision leads to spiritual victory. So Arjuna has to fight without worrying about whether he's going to enjoy himself, whether he's going to commit sins, whether he's going to destroy family traditions. He does not have to look at any of that. Krishna says, my devotee is focused on duty, not on karma. So Krishna is saying repeatedly, he prefers it that you become Krishna conscious than karma conscious. But to decide what is your right duty, you first need to know your identity. And your identity here is that you are a spirit soul. If your consciousness is awakened to the fact that you are a spirit soul, then you can create a better reality for yourself by elevating your consciousness. So this is the summary of today's session on Jivatma. So for us, our duty is to work for Krishna, to do our duties and responsibilities very nicely and not worry about consequences. Our challenge comes when we are put into difficult situations. We don't know what is the right decision to make. Sometimes there are multiple options, and both options seem to be equally bad or equally good. And therefore, we become paralyzed. We become paralyzed because we don't know, should I do this or should I do that? If I do this, what will happen? If I do that, what will happen? And like this, we never make a decision. Krishna says, make a decision, move on. Results are not in your hand. Whatever decision you need to make the decision, because I have given you the intelligence to deal with the outcome. So if we have the intelligence to deal with the outcome of whatever decisions that we make, then why should we be fearful of making a decision? The very first quality that Krishna talks about in chapter 16 of a divine person is fearlessness. A devotee of Krishna is fearless. Why? Because we are completely dependent on Krishna. We know Krishna is going to help us out. We know Krishna is going to guide us. So why worry unnecessarily? Make a decision. Krishna will guide you. Krishna will protect you. In case things go wrong, you will know how to fix it. If things go perfectly fine, nothing to worry about. So either which way, a devotee of Krishna is fundamentally interested in always doing the right thing, but for the pleasure of Krishna. We are not interested in what benefits we're going to get out of it. We leave it, that decision, up to Krishna. As we were saying yesterday, we want Krishna to be the charioteer of our life. Let him take control. You do the right thing, don't worry about the consequences. If you're unsure of what decision to make, seek advice and counsel from senior devotees. They are always there to help you. But we need not worry about making decisions. Make the decision with faith in Krishna, and everything will be sublime. Become a devotee of Krishna, your entire life will become sublime. Hare Krishna.